Now, this drawing was actually inspired by a visit to Cotley Farm in Devon. My wife and I had gone along to purchase a Christmas tree, and they've got lots of different animals there: reindeer, donkeys, and cattle, and so on. But in particular, on this day, they had these miniature ponies that caught my eye. So I thought I'd do a sketch of this little animal, and I'm starting out with A4 mixed media paper and a Unipin ink marker. And this has become one of my favourite types of media to draw with, really. There's something about the permanence of the line that you put down, but it's quite a fine line. So, you've got some control, but equally you're putting down a permanent mark. So it's kind of a challenge, a little bit of a challenge, in that I find I get the best results when I work in a loose fashion and don't care too much about making mistakes. But obviously, if you do make a mistake, it can be kind of difficult to hide it. But it's something I really enjoy doing. And this is the marker I also use at the moment when I'm out and about with my little sketchbook and just doing some plein air sketches when I've got, 10 minutes in between appointments or something like that. So you can see I've started out with a very loose kind of gestural approach to outlining the animal, I should have said. And this is a technique I picked up by doing evening classes, figure drawing, life drawing at the local college many, many years ago now. But it really is a technique that I love. So the idea is that you're not too fussy about getting the line exactly right. And for example, along the line of the back there might be 4 or 5 different lines which describe different aspects of the back. Some of those will be more accurate than others, but kind of on average, you end up capturing the essence of the animal, and it tends to give an overall impression of liveliness, and feels like there's a bit of energy to the mark making rather than just being overly careful about things. Now, this animal's standing in straw, so the way I'm doing it is I'm making the straw a little bit deeper, saves me going to the hassle of drawing the feet. Not that I mind drawing feet at all, but in this case, it just keeps the composition nice and simple. And then, having taken that kind of light touch and composed the scene, animal, and placed it on the floor, now I can come back round with a little bit more in terms of controlled line work to just define the shape of the end of the nose and the nostrils. But then another key technique I tend to employ is that I'll vary the quality of my line really quite deliberately as I move around the drawing. So I'm trying to avoid using the same type of mark too much. So, for example, the lines which describe the end of the nose are pretty close to being straight lines. But then as we go up the side of the nose up towards the eye, I've kind of put in a few squiggles and a few broken lines. And then, of course, to depict the hair falling down over the nose, I've used some more squiggly lines there as well. Now I'm onto the eyes, and I'm coming in a little more controlled now. So I'm deliberately kind of keeping the energy and the looseness of those initial marks as I continue through the drawing. But I'm kind of contrasting that with some more controlled marks for things like the eyes and nostrils, which really capture the expression and the character of this little animal. Now, when it comes to the hair falling over the forehead and the mane, I'm not trying to draw each individual hair at all. I'm looking at that mass of hair as just that, a single mass, a lump. And then I kind of try and pick out the bits that I notice, the kind of key shapes on the edges or within the mass that I notice, without worrying about, too much detail. So again, I'm working fairly quickly, and that's quite deliberate because I find there's kind of a balance between, if I go too quick, then I'm just being careless. But if I go too slow and overly considered, then the drawing can lose its energy. So I'm going sort of just on the edge of control, as it were. I'm going just fast enough that I sort of daren't go any faster, if that makes sense. So I kind of liken it sometimes to if you're skipping across rocks on the beach, going from one rock to another, to another, to another. If you just go crazy fast, then you probably end up falling, and that's no good. If you go too slow, then it's it's just sort of quite a slow paced walk. But there's kind of a middle ground where you're kind of skipping across the rocks, and it's kind of a thrilling experience. Hopefully you don't fall, but it's a more lively and energetic experience than if you just walk across. So that's kind of what I'm trying. That feeling is what I'm trying to capture when I draw. That's the kind of speed I try to draw at. So again, when I put in these little bits of patterning on the flank, by working at that kind of speed, it avoids me kind of falling into the trap of doing a regular array of marks, because then it looks less natural and less lifelike. Now with this particular drawing, I want the focus very much to be on the little pony. So I'm really just including enough of the hay to give the pony somewhere to stand, and then I'm not interested in the background at all. So the idea is, the drawing is just, here's a miniature pony, what do you think, kind of thing. And I feel that's kind of an artistically authentic way of doing things, because when I walk into the barn, my eye is caught by the animals. I'm not really looking at the background woodwork of the barn, or that blue framework that's in the background of the reference photo. So, my eye is very much drawn to the animal. So that's what I focus on in the drawing. So we've pretty much established the scene now. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit in this video. I've got a little bit of a cold, so apologies for that. But having established the scene, now what I'm going to do is just put in selective areas of very dark tone, just to make key areas pop, like the eye, by making most of the eye almost completely black and then leaving that little bit undarkened. Get a little highlight in the eye, putting in areas of shadow where the mane is casting a shadow onto the body and head of the animal. That helps create a sense of 3 dimensions. I need to highlight where the ears are, so I make them perhaps a little darker than they are in reality. And really at this stage, I'm trying to think, okay, what's the least amount that I can do here? I don't want to overwork the drawing. So as I put in a little bit of shadow and a little bit of darkness, I'm just pausing before I do the next bit, and then thinking, is that enough? Can I stop? Even when I'm doing this with the marker, very easy to fall into the trap of doing a single quality line, as mentioned before. But, by gently varying the pressure with which you press down with this ink marker, you can get, strong dark lines, or you can get more of a medium intensity line, as I've used on the nose there and on the chest. And, I really love painting, and I love painting in vibrant colors and doing kind of fantastical, surreal scenes from time to time. But equally, there is something very pure about the practice of just observing and drawing, and just working with the ink and line and cross hatching and hatching, doing curved zigzag marks there on the side of the belly. It's just a really lovely thing to do on a regular basis, I find. It really it's an escape into another world for me. So really good fun. And yeah. And what I find is, the great thing is the simplicity of the medium I'm using. It's just an ink marker, but obviously, it kind of goes without saying. But you can draw a mini pony, mini horse, or you can draw a street scene or a crowd or anything you want, flowers, whatever it is. The fun comes from adapting this simple tool to different textures and surfaces and shapes, and thinking about all the different marks you can make in order to capture the essence of these different subjects. So this little character is getting close to complete now. I'm just adding a few darker regions underneath the belly to indicate that the animal is casting a bit of a shadow onto the hay. But if you do this, it's important to leave some gaps in that shadow, because that helps to reflect the multi-layered, irregular nature of the surface of the straw. Quick signature, and here are some close-ups of the finished drawing. So hope you enjoyed this little video. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.